rolling. So this week, we're in the living room at Cottonmouth again. You may hear some coffee getting sipped and some dogs walking around. It is currently like 5:30 a.m. Friday morning. Mr. Jimmy and myself going to have us a little conversation. You good with that?
Yes, sir. What do you want to talk about?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed recently, just to dive like right into the meat of it. So, something you do see, like a fairly good bit, obviously hunting out of ground blinds is popular these days. And you see a fair amount of archery hunting I feel like in like the Midwest and other parts of the country. But
you see a lot of that in the Midwest, because they don't have the big woods like we do. And they hunt a lot of agricultural fields.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so it dawned on me the other day, because we do it all the time. It's like there's like I don't know if it's just a perception a lot of people have down here, but you see ground blinds used down here, and I'm talking about for whitetail hunting primarily. You see ground blinds used down here, but it's mostly for gun hunting, which is fine. That works. Obviously, it works. We do it all the time, but there's like people seem to have just a common consensus that archery hunting and hunting out of a blind doesn't go hand in hand.
And I think that's because down here traditionally bow hunters hunt out of tree stands.
Right.
Ladders, climbers, lock-ons, whatever. That's just kind of what people have done all these years. Ground blinds have just recently become more and more popular, especially like with turkey hunters and like you say, gun hunters.
Right, yeah.
But, we've been hunting out of ground blinds this week. And here at Cottonmouth, like a lot of places in the South, a lot of times our deer walk through the woods looking up.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're looking up because, they that's where most people are hunting them from is tree stands.
Yeah.
But, hunting from a ground blind is, in a lot of ways, it's better because they're not expecting you. You can be so quick and quiet as far as moving those blinds. If the wind changes on you, and rather than ruin your whole hunt, if you're up in like a ladder stand, you just can't quietly move a ladder stand and trim and do all the stuff you have to do for it. But with a ground blind, you pop it down, move it around, get the wind in your favor, camo it up, brush it up real good. I mean, I've seen like Troy. He is an expert brusher upper. Yeah. A couple of Christmases ago, I bought him one of those little short machetes, with a hook on it. Man, he can go to town, and you can back off 10 yards, and you can hardly see the blind. You just see a little hole in the cover. Yeah. But they and you can get away with so much. Yeah. So much.
For sure, and like that I know Brad used to say, I think y'all all used to say it a lot. He would say, if you have a tree stand and you have a double bull, there's no spot you can't hunt.
Absolutely, amen.
And so, obviously I'm not against tree stand hunting. None of us are. We do it all the time. No. But there are places, for instance, that buck that Jordan and I killed last year, that Devil Anse buck, to get where we needed to get, we could not get a tree stand in there.
Right.
And if we had still had, because the reason I'm talking about this is I had that mindset a few years ago until we started doing it here. I just had always heard that hunting out of blind archery hunting didn't really work that well. I heard that, they would, the deer would see it, they would spook off of it, and that's, if you do it right, that's just not the case.
That's right.
So, and what was interesting about that is, so that deer I killed out of there, out of that ground blind, we put that blind up that day. Put it up that morning, and then killed the deer out of it that night at 24 yards.
Wow.
So and that was it was a 360 surround view. It's one of the biggest blinds we have, So it's doable. It's just learning and figuring out how to do it right, and you can get away with those things.
Yeah, and I know, like, you're a cameraman, or you're supposed, we call you a cameraman. On your card it says videographer.
Yes.
And I know camera guys always hate hunting out of ground blinds because their vision is restricted.
Right.
But those surround views, I mean, they've changed the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said for a while, I said, part of the thing, one of the things that I did not like about bow hunting out of a ground blind is one of the things and this was just like a personal preference. One of the things I liked about bow hunting is for anything to happen, it had to get close to me, it had to get tight.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I just felt when I was in a blind, I felt like I was constricted. Well, you get that surround view, that whole feeling of that goes away, because you can see everything.
Last night, when we were hunting and we had a surround view, you could see all around. We were big, open, pecan flat, and it was it was great.
Yeah.
It was great.
For sure. And we were bow hunting then.
Yeah.
Now that was a different situation, and so we're talking about brushing blinds in, but if you do what we did with that spot, like we had a spot that we knew we were going to bow hunt, that spot in particular, big old pecan flat, and so we knew we were going to have a spot there, so we put a blind on a platform, and it's been there since before the season started.
And they get used to it.
Exactly.
And it's not a problem. But the main thing people need to do when they set a blind up like that for more or less. We say you're not really supposed to leave a blind out there. They're not made for that, but you can do it.
Yeah.
You want to put them in the shade where the sun doesn't bleach them out, and you more darn sure make sure they're staked down good because that wind will get in there and carry them off like an umbrella. But when you set a blind up like that without brushing it in a fixed position, you're going to leave it out there for a couple of weeks before you hunt it so the deer get used to it. Open the windows.
Yeah, that's
Leave
huge.
the windows open. If you close them windows and then you get in there to hunt and them windows open, I've seen deer react like, it scares the daylights out of them.
Yeah, because it's different to them.
Yeah.
When you get in the blind, it's not so much different looking to you, but for a deer that, like we say it all the time, the deer, that's their home. That's where they live.
Yeah.
They look at that stuff every day, and so all of a sudden that blind looks wildly different. All of a sudden there's these big black holes.
Yeah.
And because from the outside is what it looks like.
That's right.
All of a sudden there's these big black holes. That's going to catch their eye. So even if it doesn't spook them, it's going to put them on alert. You know. And so like you said, that's another thing. Which here's another thing I want to touch on, which isn't so much on setting it up, but it come to my mind when you're talking about this. Hey, do y'all think it's too early to start shopping for Christmas gifts? We don't think so, and we want to help you out. So at Primos.com right now, you can get $100 off surround view blinds. That's right, $100 off surround view blinds. Head on over to Primos.com and check it out. I've heard this enough that it bothers me. I've heard a few folks ask about the surround view. They think that it was we've had a couple folks think that since the way that it's made, see-through and everything, they think that it was designed to where you could shoot through the walls.
Yeah.
Leave the windows down and shoot through the walls.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
No. It's a different kind of screen. Mm-hmm. You got shoot-through windows in blinds, and we make them like that too, and they're a little light, flimsy, like face mask material.
Right.
Real light. This is more like screen you have on a porch.
Right.
So
you
can't shoot through.
Yeah. So I've heard
you can.
Yeah, you can. You can do it.
I would not. I wouldn't advise.
All
it.
you're gonna have is a big hole in your blind, and it's gonna deflect where.
But that's a normal question for most people to ask.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm just.
I think I asked the same thing when our product development people.
I'm just saying. I've heard it enough. I wanted to go ahead and put it out there. Don't do that. I think you'll be disappointed in your results if you try shooting through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I talked to one guy who's turkey hunting out of it last spring. It cost him a turkey, you know.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
And an expensive repair.
Yeah. So yeah, that stuff it definitely can work, and I like leaving the windows open, like you said, and one thing that we've learned, and you touched on it earlier, is brushing those blinds in.
Yeah.
That's when I'm talking about stuff like putting the blind in that morning, going back that afternoon and shooting a deer out of it. When you hear time after time, you got to put a blind out there and you got to have them time. They have to have time to get used to it or it won't work. That is true if we're talking about one of those instances where it's on a platform just out in the open. Yeah, they're going to need some time. But if you brush it in, you can hunt it immediately. I've seen it. You've seen it. I've seen it several times.
Yeah.
That deer Brad killed in the Secret Bottom a few years ago. That blind was put in on a Monday. He killed it on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Shot a 5-year-old 10-point at 30 yards.
Yeah.
And we had all kinds of deer
in a surround view.
In a surround view blind.
That footage,
and there was deer all over the place, and they never paid that blind any attention.
No, I mean they blend. You can blend them right in, and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
And it's different. But there are a lot of people. I have some friends that they're afraid of heights.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people suffer from that, and so hunting out of a tree stand makes them a little nervous. So ground blind, it's natural. Young people, getting kids introduced to hunting.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to keep a child's attention. But I remember Morgan, Brad's daughter, she's been hunting with us, since, she was 5-6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And Brad and Kathy would bring her together to our place there close to our office in Flora, and get in the ground blind. And they bring games for her, and little blankies and stuff like keep her warm. And she'd be playing, and then when they'd see a deer or whatever they were hunting, they'd say, Morgan, here you go, get ready. And she wouldn't get bored and all that. So, and Wilbur's the same way. You got to keep Wilbur attention going.
No doubt. And I always thought about it too. Back when I was, like a college student on a tight budget, I said, if you had a ground blind, it's better than, you can take a ladder stand and move it around, but it's, it's a lot easier to have you a bunch of different ladder stands at different spots. As to where a blind, you can take that thing and go anywhere.
And really setting up any kind of tree type stand, it's better to have two people there,
right,
for safety purposes,
right.
And a lot of times you can't do that when you're hunting
right.
on your own, so ground blind, makes it, a little bit safer, and for you to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll tell you another thing. Practice out of that ground blind. If you're going to bow hunt, either crossbow or a vertical bow, compound bow, practice out of it.
Yeah.
It's different, shooting sitting down. And I know one mistake I made years ago. I forgot your bow sight is about 3 or 4 inches above your arrow rest.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, and I was shooting at a California blacktail, I think it was, and man, I shot that thing was 10. That deer was 10 yards broadside, and I shot, and that arrow hit the bottom of the the opening of the blind. I mean, sliced right through it. And fortunately, it deflected that arrow, but the deer was so close, it still hit him in a vital area. But it was pure luck that it did, because I just didn't compensate for that difference in the elevation of my rest.
Yeah. Not even that. If you don't practice sitting down, and all of a sudden you go to shoot sitting down, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very different.
I tell you another thing too, and this may sound like a commercial, but it's really not. Ozonics. And a ground blind, I mean, your scent is kind of concealed, with the walls of certain blinds. But you put that ozonics to work in there, and man, you got all the bases. Yeah, you got all the bases covered.
Yeah, we'll have and this is, like even with ozonics, you have on a day where the wind is swirling all over the place.
Yeah,
Ozonics isn't a magic button, you know what I mean? So, I mean, they would tell you this if the wind's, the machine can't help it if the wind's switching. But if in a blind, the wind can only come out one way, primarily.
Yeah, well, here on that river, it switches around a lot. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But, it does help a lot, especially in a ground blind.
Yeah.
And a tree stand, too, of course, if the wind is prevalent in one direction.
Yeah. Well, I feel the effects of it are pretty maximized inside a ground blind for sure.
It's amazing. A lot of people say wear dark clothes, wear a face mask, and I'm sure that's good advice if you want to go to that extreme. But we wear that old mossy oak bottomland. We just we wear that bottom land, and just don't wear a face mask. Normally, of course, we're in the shade, and you get back in that blind, and it's like a black hole. Yeah. They can't see you.
No, I've never had an issue with that, really. Like I said, the only times I can remember having issues is when I would in my younger days, I'd put up blinds to bow hunt out of, just trying it, and I'd have deer spook off of them because I didn't brush them in, or I quote brushed them in, but I didn't really brush them in. I'd have there's some stuff on it, but it wasn't brushed in. One of the biggest things that I've learned, and I can't really tell you why it works this way, but I remember Brad was the first person to point it out to me, and it holds true. For some reason, it's like if you can get that blind in some kind of cover that's lying horizontal, that it just seems to make the whole process of them not seeing that blind so much smoother.
Yeah. Like
a falling down tree or like a big old down treetop or a brush pile.
Yeah.
If you can get it in there, it's like it just disappears.
Yesterday morning, we were out checking blinds and stands and cameras and all that, and Troy and I set up a blind up at the bell patch, and in a treetop, a big treetop that had blown down, or the river had washed the roots out because it was right up against the river, and we just carved that thing out and shoved that blind up and used the trimmings to brush it in, and man, it disappeared.
I promise you could hunt it today.
Oh yeah,
and not a deer would see it.
That's right, and it just wasn't any trees that where we were hunting, where the wind is prevalent, that we could use, and it it was great, and it was a good flat place so you could see good. So
the spot where Brad killed the 10-point I was talking about earlier, there had been a tree falling down, and granted this tree had been down a while, but it was kind of towards the top end of the tree, and it had a big fork in the trunk. And so part of the bottom of the fork was going along the ground, then it had another big fork that was, kind of sticking up in the air, but it was still laying horizontally. Mm-hmm. And we shoved that blind in right there, cut some other stuff, laid it on top of it. Not a deer.
That's right. I mean, Brad is, he's had so many years of experience. Used to be a guide at Terra Lodge.
Right.
And so he knows what he needs to do. And I'm glad to see he's taught you a few things. I wish he could teach Wilbur a few things, but we know that's pretty hard to do. But he's good. He's good at figuring that out.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing I thought about, and I'm glad I thought about it, because especially for bow hunting, when you have deer up tight, when you're going to have deer tight on you, one thing that we've learned to do, if you step into one of our ground blinds that we're going to bow hunt out of, and you'll know what I'm talking about, the ground looks like it's been weed-eated.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it has been.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
With a lacrosse boot being right across the ground or something.
It looks like it's been plowed up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, thinking if you are in like one of these thick places, and you're going to be bow hunting, so again you're expecting these animals, these deer, to be tight on you. You don't want there to be a bunch of dead leaves or thorns or briars on the ground where the blind is. So every time you move, it's going to be making a noise.
Or it catches on something. I remember, one time we set a blind up and we didn't do that very well. I'm not going to mention any names. But a buck came out I wanted to shoot, and my rifle sling got tangled up in a little old sapling that we left in there. It wasn't big around as your finger, but it cost me that deer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff, and even like the noise stuff, you kind of don't think about that until the deer get on you. Then you realize, like, oh, gosh, I can't move. It's loud, and it takes – so –
especially with you.
Yes.
King of ding.
I had to take a picture, like a cell phone picture one time. Because it really, like the ground and those ground blinds, it looks pretty much like it's just fresh dirt.
Yeah. Well, like you say, it's like it's been weed eated.
Yeah. And that's
sometimes we take a weed eater.
Yeah, we make a point to do that every time, because it really does make a difference in sound and in just the ability to move around. Because if you have that dirt like that, there's no noise.
No.
And you can get to everything smoothly and pick up your bow, crossbow, whatever. It's just, I don't know, it's like a bunch of those little things like that just add up to put you in it seems like a little bit here, a little bit there. It doesn't really amount to much, but all that stuff starts to add up quickly.
Yeah.
To put you in a better chance of success.
Well, I tell you this. I know I got excited yesterday. We were out setting up ground blinds, and I put one. You know where Jimmy's secret patch is.
I do know where
Jimmy's secret patch is.
Yeah, I killed a buck out of there a few days ago.
Yeah, out of a lock-on stand. Yeah, you did good. And I gave you permission to go in there and do that. Yes, I did. But I put that old double bull blind up there in my favorite corner. And we're bow hunting now, but in a week or two, we're going to be gun hunting. And, we didn't brush it in, just tied it down good. Like you said, raked that ground up. And I was just sitting there just smiling.
Yeah.
What's to come.
Yeah.
Because that patch is looking good.
Yeah.
Jordan did a good job planting that one.
But I helped plant it too.
Oh, what'd you do, pour the seed in the hopper?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you. No, y'all did a good job. So, yeah, it's looking good.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's just something that I wanted to talk about, because like we've had some really good hunts, bow hunting out of ground blinds, crossbow hunting too. There was, remember that one time Troy stole your crossbow?
Yeah.
That was out of a ground blind.
Yeah, I remember. I don't leave it here no more.
No.
It goes on with it. You remember when Troy went out with his Matthews compound bow and found out he had field tips on his arrows?
Yeah.
After that incident of borrowing my crossbow?
Yeah,
payback, buddy.
I'm trying to think if I can draw. I mean, I know that there's some I'm leaving out. There has to be, but it like I said, it absolutely works. And the whole mindset that it doesn't work here in the Southeast. Because look, I get it. I'm not trying to say one thing's harder than the other, but the deer down here are absolutely more spooky. Like they are more wary, whatever you want to call it. When we were in Kansas 2 weeks ago. It had been a while, honestly, since I'd deer hunted outside the Southeast. It'd been probably 5 years or so.
Yeah.
And it's like I had forgotten. We know we had a doe. I was filming Brad. We had a doe walk around us, get downwind. As soon as she hit our wind stream, she jumped 5 feet into the air, then bounced backward. She stood around, looked around. Then she walked into it again, did the same thing, and then she turned around and walked right. She turned around, walked back, circled back around in front of us at 20 yards.
Yeah. Stood
there for about 5 minutes looking around, never blew. Then just kind of eased on.
It's been slow here. It's been here at Cottonmouth this week. We really hadn't seen a whole lot of deer. It's been warm and rainy, kind of. Just the kind of weather if you were hunting on your own, you probably wouldn't even go hunt. But we've been hunting, and so we've watched a lot of Outdoor Channel TV.
Yeah,
and that's about the only deer we're seeing is on the Outdoor Channel. And and you got like Mark Drury and some of the Jay Gregory and some of them guys that hunt the Midwest, Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska, and you watch them great big old tank of a deer walk out there and they shoot it with a bow, and those deer don't even flinch when you shoot. They just stand there and take it. You shoot our deer at 20 yards. You don't shoot where the deer is. You shoot where the deer you hope is going to be when that arrow gets to it at 20 yards because they're so jumpy.
That buck I shot last week, I hit him at like the top of the lungs. If I would have underestimated his ability to jump the string anymore, I wouldn't have killed him.
Well, you were probably aiming at that white spot right under his belly, where, when you shot and you hit him in the top of the lung.
Yeah.
At what was that, 30 yards?
30 yards.
Yeah, wow.
30, 31, 32, something like that.
It's unbelievable. That deer I shot with a crossbow last year with you at the Kildee Patch, 54 yards with that Mission at sub-1 at crossbow.
Also out of a ground blind, by the way.
Yeah, out of a ground blind, yes, sir. And, we had to shoot because it was getting dark. And I shot, and that crossbow was fast, man. It's fast. But that deer turned around, and it hit him in a different spot, still a vital spot.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not where you shoot him at where you hit him. It's where he's going to be when that arrow gets there.
Yeah, and that can be hard to judge sometimes. But these deer are different, and for sure. But you can absolutely be successful ground blind archery hunting them here.
And be comfortable,
100%.
be a lot more comfortable, especially on cold, rainy days, you know, when you probably wouldn't want to hunt out of a tree stand. Well, you're not going to kill a deer sitting at home on the couch.
Yeah.
So that ground blind, you know, gives you another option there for cold, nasty weather. And, you know, if you're getting older like me, you know, it's just comfortable.
Yeah. And it's 100% effective. 100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we touched on everything I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
Guys, I hope this was helpful. You know, we talked about, I mean, the covering, brushing blinds in, finding like horizontal structures, brush piles, treetops, any of that honestly makes it work.
And I'll tell you this, if people listening, they have any more questions about ground blinds, they can go to our Primos Facebook page. They can send us a question into the office. We got a real pretty young lady named Mary Ashley there, and if she can't answer it, she always sends the questions to us, and we'll answer and send them back to them.
Yeah. You can also do the same thing on our Instagram page. Either Mary Ashley or myself, one of us two will see that.
Yeah, okay.
And we will we will get back to you.
I don't do Instagram.
No.
I barely do Facebook.
Well, both of those options are available.
Yeah, but we'll do the best we can to get back to you with any questions you may have.
Yeah, for sure.
And the main thing is when you're hunting, just like we do here at Cottonmouth, have fun. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. And, yeah, that's going to be all for us today. Thank you for listening to the Speak the Language podcast.
See you. Bye.